PMFers, who's got that product market fit? Boop, 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 boop. We're here with PMFers. I got Paul Berg here. Paul, how you feeling?
I'm feeling very well. Thank you for having me. How are you, Austin?
I'm doing great. The Petra merge just merged. The validators and nodes are still alive and operating. Our bags are secured. how
That's
how
amazing.
yeah, how was the Petra upgrade for you? It probably doesn't even matter, right? Just if it happens beneath the abstractions and everything is fine, then we're good as app builders.
Well, these very days I was like busy with some non-protocol level work, so I haven't kept up with the news. But I think what we definitely want to do someday in the near future is to get rid of approvals. Like Uniswap made this announcement with, after
This should
Pectra, you
do
can
it.
do with EIP 7702, you can have like this temporary code for EOAs, and we can potentially just batch approve and interact with our contracts. So I think if there's anything we will do in the short term about Pectra, that's certainly one of the things we will do. So I'm quite excited about that.
Heck yeah. It means that like all EOAs or all wallets basically can upgrade to be smart contract wallets and back, which is so cool.
Kind
Okay,
of.
kind of.
I think I called it a crutch, but it works for now.
Yeah, okay. I think it's something. Like we've been needing better account abstraction for a long time, so I'll take whatever we can get, really. Okay, so let's talk about you. Let's talk about building. Let's talk about building apps. So this is about PMFers. This is about people who are trying to figure out how to build on-chain and get their first users and have their best ideas. So where did you go even before crypto, but like where were you in terms of building apps? Like did you build apps before crypto? Did you build products before the internet? Like where did you become a product builder or building things that people use?
I'm 26, so I was born on the internet, and I yes, I did code before crypto. I have about like 12, maybe 11 years of coding, and I started with iPhone apps using Objective C back in the day when Swift wasn't a thing. And yeah, I was a freelancer for a while. I just discovered coding when I was young in my high school years, and I loved it. I love the beauty of just being with a coding problem and finding the solution. Back in the day, we didn't have AI LLMs, so there were some things which were more fun in a way. But anyway, so yeah, I started with that, and then slowly transitioned to like full stack, building Android, like web backend, freelancing. I did a few startups here and there, and then eventually discovered Ethereum in 2019 and got a job at Aztec protocol in London. Spent some time there, and then I just found my way into becoming a founder and like fundraising and starting Sablier, which I'm currently running. And Sablier is a token distribution protocol, and we're providing a product for several things now, including vesting and airdrops and on-chain payroll. So that's my background in a nutshell.
I just interviewed Will Warren yesterday, and we were talking about how Build Guild has kind of ejection points for builders, and we have these metrics of success. And I was always thinking that someone going to work for a protocol was like a tier one success, and someone creating their own product was like a tier two success. And he was like, no, going to work for a protocol is just a stepping stone. And that's what you're saying too, is you went to work for Aztec to get serious about building in crypto, and then you built your own products after that. Is that true? Like, would you have been able to make Sablier without that jump to Aztec first?
Oh, that is an interesting question, which I never thought about. I am very grateful to the Aztec team for what I learned while I was there, and Zach is an incredible scientist and developer and engineer and so on and so forth. So it's hard for me to tell, but London is expensive, so I really need a job. So I think it's like a mix of like they definitely helped, but I'm certainly very much like I have the builder like drive in me, and I would have probably ended up building things on my own. And anyway, but it would probably have taken me more time, just because like being in a team when you're just like starting out can help you with connections and like solid advice that, again, we didn't have AI back then. So definitely helped, but I think I would have found my way into like a founder builder mode anyway, but it might have taken longer time.
Cool. Good answer. So, okay, so then let's move on to your on-chain product market fit, which I think is Sablier. I think is your biggest claim to fame. But is that true? Would you say that like the most real on-chain users that are using things that you built is from Sablier?
Yes, definitely. And second place is PRB Math, which is my fixed point math library. I have other templates, but those are not deployed on chain. They're more like developer tools. But in terms of like on-chain stuff, absolutely Sablier. And then second place would be PRB Math.
Do you even know numbers on how many times that math library is used out there in the wild?
It's a good question. I've recently applied for the retroactive funding by Optimism, and they did have some stats there which were quite interesting. Like only on Optimism, I've seen people spend 97 ETH on PRB Math
Can't you just
related
deploy it
function.
once and reuse it? Like, do you have
No,
to do that way?
it's I thought about that, but it's not about deployments actually. It's about like computations which are run
Oh, this is
using,
okay. Okay, this is not space.
yeah,
This is computation that people were paying
correct.
for to do
And
this math. Okay.
yeah,
So that means
there's
you
no way you
save
can.
them probably 97 million too by making it more efficient.
Efficient and safe, because one of the things I'm proud of about PRB Math is that I have these like types. So numbers are not UI ints; they are like these custom types that I wrote, and that provides type safety because you cannot accidentally send like an 18 decimal to a USDC amount, because USDC has 6 decimals, so you always have to type it. Um, but yeah, otherwise, I think from what I can see on the npm package stats. Actually, let me just like pull it up quickly now, because you
Heck
can
yeah.
see um, on the npm. So there's something like, oh wow, whoa, this is bigger than than I checked it last time. So there we go. It had 20, like 11,000 weekly downloads in. Oh,
It's good.
yeah. So something like, like 20,000 monthly downloads. And this is just like from the public information that you can get from, like npm downloads. So yeah, so that's the first one. But then you have the Sablier stats. And last time I checked, we had similar stats, like a little over 20,000 monthly active users.
Great.
On
Okay.
chain, on chain.
On chain. Let's talk about the first 10 and the first 100. Once you had Sablier working, I remember back in the day, we were all kind of thinking about streaming. I worked with Owaki to make something that didn't take off at all. You built something that did take off. What were the first 10 users, the first 100 users? I'm guessing you were just building it and putting it out there on crypto Twitter and trying to get people to use it. But was it like payroll, or how did you get those first 10 users? What'd you do?
So just a side note, I think what you guys built with Kevin was amazing, and I'm sorry it didn't take off. And in my case, to be upfront, like Frank, we kind of like, so streaming is now just like one feature that we have. It's still being used, but we've kind of like um, offer more products now, and some of them include like monthly unlocks. So it's like more traditional, vesting
Like
stuff
vesting?
today.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
but it's still a product that is integrated and offers multiple kind of distribution models, including streaming. Anyway, so the first 10 users, yeah, it was the first beta version I built after quitting my job at Aztec, and it was. I mean, if I see that version now, I would probably be so ashamed of myself. But I just wanted to get it out there, and it was built with just pure JavaScript, like no linting, I think I was using Prettier, but that was it. And it was my first app that I built from scratch in DeFi and Web3. And I cared about security, so I got like a grant just to fund the security audit, which I did with QuantStamp, and it worked fine. They didn't find any bugs, and there weren't any bugs, fortunately.
How expensive was that? Can you tell us how much you had to pay? Maybe that's private, though. It's okay if it's private.
I honestly don't remember, but
okay,
it was
like thousands of dollars or like tens of thousands of dollars. Just trying to guess at what a QuantStamp audit at that time for your thing would have been.
Well, the entire grant was like 30 or 40K, and that had to pay for the audit and our salaries. So you can figure it out.
Yep,
but that was like 2019. I honestly can't remember exactly the figures.
But that helps.
But anyway,
so yeah.
So the first 10 users were basically a bunch of DeFi native and Web3 enthusiasts. In 2019, it was like a bear market. That was 1 year before the DeFi summer in 2020. So there were only the people who were in it for the tech for real. And there was a lot of brainstorming happening. I think we had probably the first 100 users of Sablier were just purely highly curious people who just knew about Ethereum and knew how to use MetaMask and saw this thing on Twitter and said, this sounds cool. Let me have a look. They weren't looking for a product to solve a problem. They were more like, let me try this out. There was a lot of ideation about like streaming. What can we use this for? Like subscriptions, payroll. But as far as I'm concerned and how I envisioned it, yes, it was meant to be like this, payroll thingy on chain, where rather than like having the salary paid once per month, you can do it by the second using block that's timestamped in Solidity. And slowly, but people picked it up. They saw it's working. They saw it's safe. I think Sushi was our first big users. I remember waking up one day with from zero to hero, like a few million TVL overnight. And it's ironic because Sushi ended up building their own protocol for streaming, but they were initially our first big user. So yeah, that's the story of like 2019, 2020. It was just a bunch of Web3 curious people.
I think there's kind of some insight here. Everyone's always looking for validation, and they're taking their idea and they're like, won't the Ethereum Foundation please look at my project? Like, see me. And really, like, to be seen, what you had to do was just tweet it. Like, it's crypto Twitter, and all these people are already out here watching for things. Your friends, the people that you needed to bounce the things off of, are crypto Twitter, and you tweeted it, and you had to keep tweeting it. Like, you have to keep going and keep showing the thing off and proving to people that it's safe. But really, like, there isn't some like secret cabal of people that are making products. You make products and you put it out on crypto Twitter, and people either like it or don't like it. Do you agree with that, or do you think there is some like secret feedback that you get for products?
I definitely agree, with the caveat that back in the day in 2019, it was easier to get your product out there because there was less competition. Today, I think the standard is somewhat higher, just because there are more products on the market. There's AI, which kind of like speeds up things, and there are so many vibe coders out there. But with that caveat out of the way, I fully agree with you that there's probably no other industry which is more meritocratic than Web3, just because it's global, just because it's open source. You can just publish your work. When I published Sablier, I was like this random 19 or 20, I don't know, like 19 or 20 kid in London. Nobody knew me. I had like 200 followers on Twitter. I basically built my career in this industry, and I was allowed to just because of the open source and meritocratic nature of this industry. And I'm super grateful for what I was able to build and achieve on the internet using Ethereum. So I basically wholeheartedly agree with your statement.
And I think that even though there is higher competition right now, there's still a lot of eyeballs and more eyeballs. And if you were to tweet something right now, like, check out this 7702 dApp, connect your wallet, and do a swap without having to approve, like people are going to click that and go do that, right? Like right now, if you had a wallet that did it, people would be clicking in and doing it because it's like something that's new today and it'd be fun. Even if there's 20 other wallets that are about to do that, like if you could release a wallet right now that had 7702 compatibility, you would get users instantly by just tweeting it because people are ready for that kind of thing right now.
I think you're right. I mean, there are more users now for sure, and there's more familiarity with like Web3 stack, and there are more wallets and stuff. So that's a good point. I think you just changed my mind.
I think the critical part there is that there's no like secret cabal of product
Correct.
feedback people. It's crypto Twitter. And if you put something out on crypto Twitter and it doesn't get traction, it's not their fault, it's your fault. And you need to do a better job and keep going, right? There's not
there's
some
a
secret.
Firecaster now, so crypto Twitter and Firecaster.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
And you can be launching mini apps on Firecaster and be getting more users. Okay, let's talk about ideas now. So how do you go about just like thinking of new ideas? Where do your ideas come from? What's your ideation process?
I am somewhat inspired on this question by what Paul Graham from YC had to say about it. And I think generating ideas is more a matter of knowing how to capture problems when you inevitably encounter them in day-to-day life. And I don't think, just like you said, there's no secret cabal. I don't think there's any secret method for generating ideas. It's just you go about your life, you go to your job, you spend time with your friends, your family, you try to send them money or something, and you encounter a problem, and you sort of like pause. You don't just let the problem slip. Just say, that's a problem. Is there a solution for this on the market? You just like spend 2 minutes on Google or like ChatGPT to see if there's a solution for that. And if there isn't, there we go. That's your potentially, product startup idea. Like just a random example that is not a crypto, idea, but I'm based in Europe in like Romania, and I import stuff from the US, and the customs declaration form is quite boring to say the least to fill out. And I just thought about building a web-based tool that just automates that. Just like upload your Amazon order, and it converts everything into the EU a customs form for you, so you don't have to do it manually. And while it's not a crypto thing, I do encounter problems like that in crypto. This is like a very recent example that I had, and like other people would probably just be that is annoying, and it's annoying for me too. But I'm just saying, okay, let me okay, is there anything I can do about this? And there's no solution for this at the moment, so it's potentially like a product like startup idea.
And then like validating the idea is kind of the next pause. And you're kind of talking about how you validate the idea initially as sort of just like, is there a solution? Does this solution work? Does it solve the problem? But eventually there needs to be some kind of like real test. You're not going to spend the next 6 months working on this thing unless there's some other situation.
I think that depends on how much of a nerd you are in terms of like, would you enjoy building that thing just for the sake of building? And if the answer is yes, I would build it anyway, even if you don't have any validation. But if you're talking about like a bigger project that would take, as you say, 6 months, I think there's the like mom testing approach that works quite well. And it involves just trying to talk to people. It can be friends, it can be anyone. And it involves you not telling them about your solution, but like probing them on the problem, and asking them, how they go about solving their problem now. And you never tell them about your solution. Maybe you tell them at the end. But I think that is the best way to go about it. Just like mom test people by trying to validate that, okay, they have the problem, this is what they do about it, and that can inform your product development, because maybe your initial solution in your head wasn't what other people wanted.
That's the kind of the next step of this product or this idea validation generation thing is just like, when do you know to let the idea go? Or maybe is there something maybe in the past that was something that you worked on for a while and there was like a moment when finally you let it go, but what caused that moment, or how do you go about putting an idea on the shelf after trying it out?
That's a good question, and it can get a bit emotional, right? Because you put in your like heart and soul and into building that, and then people don't use it. But I think the idea of sunk cost by popularized by economist Daniel Kahneman, I think is very much applicable here. Is that you just have to accept that uh, oftentimes in life, and probably in the majority of cases, you'll spend effort on something that will yield you basically no payoff. And I think this sunk cost concept applies to everything, not just like software products or like crypto things, but like personal life, dating, like you just like encounter many situations that like don't pay off, and that's fine. Just have to accept that. And with bigger ideas, it's a bit more difficult because it's like longer horizons that you have spent on that. But it's I mean, runway. If you don't have runway anymore, right? I mean, like if you don't have cash anymore, and you gave your best, and there's people are not interested in fundraising, time to move on. I think it's on a case by case basis, and how yeah, like it depends on many things. That's what I'm trying to say, but it's important to not remember to not forget about the sunk cost fallacy and treat past effort as past and move on.
I think that's good advice. Yeah. And there's something else that you're alluding to here, and that is that the payoff isn't always financial. Sometimes you're building an app to do a thing, or you're building an app to, just satisfy some curiosity and pull some thread, right? And that's awesome. If you're, doing a lot of the building that you're doing kind of from this instinctual dinking around and finding out, you probably are going to iterate pretty quickly and come up with a lot of different things. So it's sort of like, if you're in it for the love of the thing already, there's probably a lot of natural discovery that will happen, but then it's probably going to be even harder to realize the sunk cost and still say no and put the thing away. So there's kind of like this double-edged sword to like really loving the product and wanting to see it go into the world, but then it's at some other point you realize like there's not enough X, either users or revenue or runway or whatever it is. It's an interesting kind of double-edged sword of loving a product or a solution so much and having to see it go.
Spot on. That there is some tension there. I agree. Um, and I would say, if people's salaries depends on your product going well, then I would say to control your nerdiness,
Yes.
keep it in check. Otherwise, if it's like a personal thing, it's just you, maybe you and a co-founder. Yeah, just keep iterating away. I think Discord, the big social network server platform, they were initially something else. I think they pivoted, and
Hmm.
they became what they are now. So yeah, if it's like a small team and you enjoy building, just continue doing it.
Heck yeah. Okay, let's pivot to AI. Like we talked about it a little bit. You're using ChatGPT a little bit, but like what does your stack look like? How much of your product building is influenced by AI at this point? And how much code are you writing yourself versus hallucinating?
It's a great question, and the answer is a lot. Like, AI plays a big role in my stack now, and I wouldn't say it's written like everything that AI outputs. I'm pretty much reviewing myself, and I'm writing tests for the stuff that the AI writes. So I'm testing the AI. I'm not fully trusting it, so I'm not vibe coding. In case anyone wants to say I'm a vibe coder after saying this, but I I recently discovered, AI agents and Cursor, the Cursor IDE. It's been on my watch list for a while, and I was skeptical. I was like, VS Code has this like chat app thing. Why would I move to this new IDE? But I made a move 3 weeks ago, and I'm still using it every day. It's quite amazing, and it's not. It's interesting because I'm no longer switching to the ChatGPT UI anymore, except for like non-coding stuff, like general questions that I have.
Yeah.
But for coding with Cursor, it's quite amazing that I can. So they have this feature where they like index your code base, and you can reference files without having to copy paste the code. You can just say, here's the file, I want you to work on that, and keep in mind the other files. And it just knows, it basically keeps everything in the index. It's not in context because that would eat your API usage like very quickly, but it just like knows what files you have in like this, virtual index. And it's super helpful. They have this thing where you can automatic select, they automatically select like a model for you, so you don't have to choose like ChatGPT. You can let it choose whatever model works best for the prompt that you have given it. And yeah, I find it amazing. I have this like dopamine hit when I'm making the AI do the chores that normally you would have to write yourself. Like, if you're like doing a refactor, and you have this big array of like function calls, you just do the first function call as an example, and then you tell it, hey, do the other 19. And I don't know, I'm just getting a kick out of that. I just think it's fun. It's almost like you're rediscovering coding in a way. It's like having your own junior coder with you 24/7. And what I'm doing is I'm parallelizing my work. I'm working on something else while the AI is doing that refactor, and we just like work on separate things. And it feels like I'm double as productive as before, just because I have this junior who's doing the
Grunt work. Yeah.
exactly the work parts of every big project has small tasks that are easy to infer. There are some parts that are like difficult to infer, and that's why we still need humans for it. But the easy to infer parts, I think, is just amazing, and I cannot recommend everyone listening to this. If you're a coder, just give Cursor a try. I don't have any affiliation. I'm not an investor. I just think it's just a great product.
Same. Yeah, I use Cursor every day. And it's not even just editing my code, but it can like run system commands and stuff. Like you can run command line things. So it's always like, so basically what I'll do now is I'll bring in scaffold ETH and tell it what I want, but also bring in like 3 reference repos. So it's like, I've done a Merkle tree over here, so bring it in here. And I've done create 2 over here, so I'm gonna bring it in, and I want all these things in my next thing. But then I want it to like copy all of the assets from the Merkle tree branch, and it's able to do that, which is really cool. And I also have mine set on YOLO mode. I am a vibe coder. I'm not and so it'll just go to work. Like I'll go, like you said, go do something else and come back, and it's like still working, and I'm just like, oh, like what like hopefully it's isolated to at least one repo where I'm breaking things.
I confess I haven't gone YOLO mode just yet. I mean, I tried it for like 5 minutes once, and I saw how
It felt scary. Yeah.
I mean,
Scary, if it
but
goes
also
off the rails, holy moly. Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, no, it's fine. I just want to say, it's like it can make a lot of errors, and I don't know, like I have this worry that if I just let it do whatever it wants, someday it will run RM, RF,
the whole thing. Yep. It could. Yep.
And I don't want to lose my laptop, so
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So you have launched your own startup. You've gone through an unaccelerated version of Ethereum, and everyone's talking now about an Ethereum Accelerator. Do you you in on that train? Like we definitely want to see more products built on Ethereum, but an Ethereum Accelerator, to me, maybe it's more like the accelerator happens at the L2 layer, and an overall Ethereum Accelerator is something more abstract. But I don't know. What do you think of the idea of an Ethereum Accelerator? What do you think maybe it looks like?
I haven't followed the news closely, so I'm not informed on the latest decisions. But based on what you told me now, I think there's a need for some sort of like acceleration, whatever, even if it's not like a full-blown accelerator. Like, I think we need more involvement from the leadership, EF, whatever it is, because you have other blockchains which are doing that, right? You have Solana, which is pursuing that kind of path, and I think it's just like economics and like market dynamics, that if you have multiple platforms, tech platforms, and two of them have like a very active BD team, third one will have to follow suit. Yeah, keep up, right, with what the other teams are doing. How we navigate that game without compromising our values in Ethereum, of decentralization and so on and so forth, I think it's like a difficult problem. I don't have any insights or something, but I think definitely in the short term and medium term, like experimenting with accelerators would be nice, and may basically, I think something that is a little more like longer than a 3-day hackathon. ETH Global is great. Like, kudos to what they have been organizing and doing over the last 6-7 years. But hackathons are like coming and going. It's like 3 days. Many people just are there for the prizes. I think with an accelerator, you can just build more connections, and you can have co-founders meet, and there's more potentially more ideas and more startups can form that way.
I agree. I think that, like, yes, ETH Global is awesome. Yes, we should probably keep having hackathons. Yes, we want to engage folks all over the world and go to them where they are. But people are mostly playing hackathon bingo. They're not coming to the hackathon, saying, I'm going to push the space forward with this new build. They're coming there and saying, okay, if I do this thing and this thing, I can pay for my flight ticket. And they're not thinking about pushing Ethereum. So I think that, like, you said that you don't have a lot of insight, but I think you have the great insight here, is that we know we need some acceleration because we need to keep up with competition. But in any act of acceleration, we may be pushing back on some of our ideals and our ethos around decentralization, open source, a handful of other things that we don't want to give up. And I think that, like, figuring out how to do marketing and biz dev, but also stick with our ethos of decentralization and open access to everyone. And I think it's just a needle that has to be threaded. And I think it's going to be tough, but I think someone smarter than me can figure it out, hopefully.
Yeah, and if I may add, maybe we should do more longevity crossed with
That's
crypto accelerators, because I don't know if I think there were just like Zuzalu or where Vitalik, I think, funded it, where you had to exercise every day, and I think Brian Johnson and Balaji were involved in something like that in Singapore somewhere. And yeah, I know if you cross those industries, I think that will get more attention.
There is a lot of spillover between the two. Give us, okay, so I forgot you were big into longevity. I remember, let's see, what rapamycin, I think, is what we talked about last time. I'm probably thinking about, what's your stack? What's your longevity stack?
Well, it's on Twitter and like X. Okay. I published it. I can share with you. And rapamycin, yeah, it's a longevity drug. It got some pushback recently because it didn't work for Brian Johnson. My take, and disclaimer, I'm not a doctor, I'm not like a medical professional, but it's just my civilian opinion on this, is that there's still something about rapamycin that is worth tapping into and exploring. I did take it for a while. I didn't see any side effects, like negative, only actually some good stuff. And there's something about it because in the ITP, which is the Interventions Tester Program in the US, where they're testing longevity drugs and supplements with the purpose of seeing if they lead to an increase in lifespan in mice, rapamycin is the absolute #1 king. It increases lifespan up to, I don't know, 15-20% consistently. there's something about that is worth exploring for humans too. Obviously, we're not mice, but it's like there's nothing else that can do that kind of life extension in mice other than rapamycin. So yeah, that was like one thing that I took a while ago. But otherwise, I'm just like trying to do the basics of like exercising, sleeping, supplements. I am taking quite a few supplements. I have this like engineer mindset where like I'm testing myself, like my blood work quite often, and I'm seeing what bugs I have, and I'm supplementing with the things that will increase the biomarkers that are like not going well. Most of them are going well, and so I kind of like reduce my stack over time. But yeah, I think it's a fun thing to do as like a hobby. I'm just feeling better overall. I have more energy to do what I love. So yeah,
It's great. I need to do better. I at least quit drinking alcohol this year, which I think is a big,
wow.
yeah, that's a big one. But I'm still not getting like enough deep sleep. There's a few other things I can tell that I need more of, but I'm improving my own a little bit. But not
Congrats.
taking.
I've also quit 1.5 years ago. So welcome to the club.
Yeah. We'll see if I can hang on to it. We'll see how it does. Okay, so let's go back to product market fit and how we bring in the next group of builders. Let's pretend like it's 2019 again, or let's look at 2019 Paul Berg and say, what do you wish you knew? If you could take any wisdom, knowledge from today and deliver it to 2019 Paul Berg, that has nothing to do with price. You can't just say like go buy and sell these things, but like tech and PMF and app building. What do you wish you would have known back then that you now know?
That TypeScript is important. Just use
Okay,
TypeScript.
type safety.
Like,
Okay.
type safety, like there were so many bugs that would have been caught immediately with types. But that's like it's not big advice, right? It's just my personal thing that I didn't start with JavaScript. I started with JavaScript. I wish I didn't. But in general, so originally the app Sablier it wasn't use case centric, and I think that was a mistake. That now we have these tabs for vesting and like payments, payroll, and airdrops, and the contracts are the same, right? It's the same smart contracts, but it's just how you present them to the user. And initially, in 2019, it was this, just streaming in general, like it's like very general purpose payments app. And I wish I was more focused towards the like business, use cases. And I can still have like an advanced tab for the more curious minded people who don't care about specific use cases, but that can be like like an advanced mode thing. Now it's use case centric, and you can filter your like vesting streams, your payroll stream separately, and we feel like that has, based on users' feedback, right, there's less confusion. Vesting people use the vesting tab, and we can isolate errors more quickly. We know who to talk to our users and stuff. So definitely try to, like, if I were to tell one thing in terms of like product design and management to my 2019 self, it would be just start from the use cases, like talk to the people, what they want to use it for, and like add a tab for that. You can do whatever you want with the contract, but the front end, the UI, just make it like use case centric.
I've been thinking about this a lot, how I could deploy a contract that's maybe just like a mapping from addresses to addresses, and then I could use it for like 100 different things in the front end, right? And maybe it's just a phone book, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe it's something where you pay to update the record. Like the smart contract can remain and do exactly what it needs to do, but still the end user and their interface with the smart contract is the most important thing. And it needs to be, like you said, like very product centric. Like you're coming here to do vesting. You're not coming here to do general purpose streaming. You're coming here to do vesting. And even though you're talking to a general purpose streaming smart contract underneath the abstractions, you as the end user are coming here for vesting. And so you want vesting, and you click vesting and you see the information that's important about vesting, which I think is really good insight and really good for future product builders don't build, the general purpose thing that does everything without finding a very specific use case for a user and building it for them and seeing how they use it and get feedback from them. Is that ringing true?
Yes.
Great.
And I think it's ironic that I think with scaffold ETH, right, that you generate this UI for the smart contract functions, right, that can interact with them. And I'm saying it's ironic because I think my advice is basically saying to not do that. Like, do not expose. Yeah,
Yep.
It's like too generic. Do not expose your smart contract API to your users. So like, try to model it whatever normal people are accustomed to. In our case, it's like vesting and payroll and whatever. And yeah, in your use case, it might be, I don't know, insurance, right? Like if you have this like big claims contract that can do like a lot of things, just don't show that. Just the insurance for whatever thing you're doing.
Yep. It's just a website and there's probably some information and a button or a form that you fill out. You're definitely not like going to a raw contract interface and taking things times 10 to the 18 and things like that. These are very developer things to do, and Scaffold ETH does allow you to do them. But yeah, by the time you're putting an app out there live for people to use, it should not be that raw smart contract interface for sure.
Yeah, maybe you could do like, it's like a funny idea. Maybe you could use like an LLM to say, generate like a dummy UI that abstracts away the contract functions into something that is more end user, like more comfortable for end users. And then the AI would spit out this like UI that converts like a mapping between end user use cases and your contract functions.
Yeah.
I know.
Almost like the user lands and it's like, hey, what do you want to do? And they tell you, well, I'm looking for vesting at this rate or something like that. And then it actually like generates the front end for you live. And then you hit the button and it goes and talks to the smart contract or something. That could be cool. Okay. More existential questions. I'm getting toward the end of my questions. So at some point, I think that it felt like Ethereum is for like a cracked few, like the top 1% are the only ones that are deploying contracts that people are using. Do you think that's still the case? Is AI going to make that easier or harder? Or if you are a mediocre developer, do you think you can come in and make an app that people use on Ethereum?
Well, I was a mediocre developer in 2019. So I have like like N of one, evidence that can happen. I think you have to be committed and you have to be a little obsessed with building a great product. And I did have that obsession, so that helped. But as I said, I was no type safety. I was like super inexperienced. I didn't go to college for one thing, so I was like, just like a junior dev, like finding my way through. So I think it's possible, but you have to be committed. Interestingly, I don't think AI can help much here because, firstly, because the training data set isn't that large for like EVM, Ethereum contracts. And probably many of those that are like open source on GitHub are like prototypes and they contain bugs. So I wouldn't rely on like an AI-based audit. Like, just screw that. Like it won't work. And so I think it can be done, and I don't agree with like this 1% of developers can do it. I think I would agree though that it does require more commitment than your standard Web 2 like backend product, just because you cannot change stuff if you don't use upgradability, which I don't think you should use, but anyway, because of the immutable nature of contracts, it does require more commitment. What kind of percentage that leads to, of like how many developers can do it, I don't know. I just don't. It doesn't sound like 1%, and I think the tooling is getting better. Yes, we have still the stack too big problem in Solidity and whatnot, but we're gonna solve. It's like problems. We're aware of them. We're gonna solve them, and people are working on them. Recently I've heard that they're working on an EIP for increasing the contract size to something like 500 kilobytes. I think could be wrong.
Is that the EOF stuff? I think that got shot down though recently.
No, I don't think
we're talking about two different things. Okay,
it's like different EIP for.
Okay.
Yeah, and that would be nice. So problems are being solved, and I wouldn't say it's like this, exclusive 1% developer thing. It does require more commitment, though.
So I agree. And I think obsession is a key there too. You were obsessed with making a good product. And that's probably one of the most important properties I've noticed of all the PMFers I've interviewed so far, is this like obsession of building something that people use, and an obsession of making it awesome, and just obsessing over it. Okay, so what kinds of things do you actually need a blockchain for? In my list of existential problems here, as you're trying to, build something that people actually use on chain, what do they actually need a blockchain for? It seems like mostly financial stuff. Is that true?
From my perspective, I'm building a financial product, so I have my skewed view on this. I think it's a matter of like coordination, like cross jurisdiction coordination, right? As I said, I'm currently based in Romania. It's my home country. It's part of the EU, and the EU is quite messy, right? Like we have different languages. It's like we have like a shared regulatory body in Brussels, but countries can like they have their own constitution and stuff, and doing business cross country in Europe is much more difficult than cross state in the US. And similarly, like between the US and EU is like quite hard to do business sometimes. And like blockchains I feel like they can help a lot. Like, to go back to my importing products from the US issue, which is not financial, right? It's like I'm just ordering something, and it's like a matter of like PDFs, like how the customs in Romania see the PDF that I paid this much on this like US product. And currently that PDF is being generated by whatever shipping company I'm using, and they're sending it to me over email, and I have to fill it out. And while I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about the solution for this, I do see, IPFS, or like a hash of the PDF. If you put it on chain, that can potentially save on coordination costs between me, the customs in Romania, and the delivery company in the US, because we can all agree that, okay, this is what I ordered, this is my signature here, and you can see it on the blockchain, rather than having to trust me that I downloaded from, because you have to like fill out and you have to put your name and stuff. So that would be a nice use case. Now, what it takes to get to a point where we all coordinate and use blockchains, I know. I feel like there's a big component of this is like education, and it's not something that we can necessarily control, because it's a matter of like government priorities. There are wars being, like in the world, so probably governments have to focus on that in the short term. But I'm quite optimistic that with time, as like more, more people in authority in like governments and big companies will, find eventually time to learn about, Ethereum and blockchains and stuff. We can see more non-financial use cases. But in the meantime, finance works because it's about individuals and their money and where they put their money, and it's like it doesn't require coordination of like multiple bodies. You can just like interact with each other. And obviously, I don't have to make the case for why blockchains are good for finance. It's just like incredibly useful to do globally, like finance globally this way. But I do remain I do want to retain my optimism that there are many coordination issues that with time, I don't want to make predictions, but with time, we will see, blockchains being able to save time and like save on coordination costs specifically between like cross jurisdiction collaboration of like business.
Totally. Yeah. Hopefully we see a transition from primarily financial apps to nation states playing coordination games on chain. And hopefully that transition happens, like you said, with time and understanding and a lot of other things that need to happen to get those nation states to understand that, they can't trust each other, but they could trust this new thing that is kind of harder than either of their own tech. Yeah. Okay, last question. The most weird and existential question. What is your superpower?
Whoa. Yeah, I think it's this thing about like obsession. It's if I give a promise, I will do whatever it takes to fulfill it. That's why I'm quite um I'm very careful when I make a promise to someone, because I will do my best to execute on that. And I think that's it. I when I was young, I thought everyone was like that, and I was disappointed when I saw people make promises and not fulfill them. But I guess that's what I call my superpower. It's not all good, because we were talking about like longevity before. When you're obsessed with like, be it like a product feature or optimizing towards a certain goal, it can impair your sleep, like because you just keep thinking about that, and you just can't like wind down to just go to sleep. But I would say, all in all, it is something that I'm grateful that I have this ability to just like focus on something and like not give up until I just see it built. And yeah, it has more benefits than downsides, and that's what I would call my superpower.
Great. That's awesome. I love it. Yep. Obsession and obsession plus plus. I like that. It's good.
Yeah. So what would we say is yours, if I may ask your like
Oof.
a single question to you?
Yeah, I would say I'm kind of on the other side. I say that I'm going to do a lot of things and don't always fulfill them. Like, I'm messier. I think mine might be like creativity and finding solutions in a lot of noise. Also, I think I'm just good at like quickly just building something and not being too worried about it being perfect. Like, I'm very sloppy and very all over the place, but a lot of like interesting little prototypes comes out of that. I just shouldn't be the guy in charge of making the final version, which is great. I'm not. Like, I have other guys that are great at making final versions around me, and I make a lot of shitty first versions, and then folks around me pay attention to that and find the ones that are the best ones and take them the next level. Like, maybe I'm
We
like a little
definitely need.
incubator or something.
I would definitely add someone like you in like an X-Men team of like superpower, like super coders.
Yeah, but you need, yes, I'm the messy one, but I need the good ones around me, right? The messy one's never going to finish, but always going to come up with some ideas. But I don't know, maybe that's my superpower. I haven't really thought about that much, but I ask everybody that on the podcast. But thank you, Paul Berg, for showing up. You are a great PMFer. You've got a ton of on-chain users, both with your PRB math and your Sablier app. Keep building, keep doing awesome things in the space. Keep bringing more people on-chain, and keep, being a PMFer. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Austin. That was a good. I had a great time.